with 20 plus years of mastery across Oracle Fusion Cloud, EBS R12, AI-driven automation, Mr. Anshuman Yadav.
The finance cannot run on assumptions. It requires accuracy, clarity, and source of truth.
It's interesting how transformation becomes real only when people move together, not just systems. And the honesty in your story really stands out.
The biggest problem was not the data volume, it was confusing and broken data.
Hey everyone, welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and today we are stepping into a world that quietly powers the backbone of every modern enterprise. The world of ERP transformation, digital strategy, and the systems that keep global businesses running without skipping a beat. When people hear ERP, they often imagine dashboards, data tables, or long configuration screens. But what they don't see is the architecture behind it, the vision, the leadership, and the precision that turns complexity into clarity and transforms companies from the inside out. And our guest today is someone who has been doing exactly that for 2 decades, Mr. Anshuman Yadav, a force in Oracle ERP transformation with 20 plus years of mastery across Oracle Fusion Cloud, EBS R12, AI-driven automation, enterprise governance, and global ERP rollouts. He has led end-to-end transformations for some of the most demanding industries: insurance, fintech, manufacturing, GCC conglomerates, re-engineering processes, driving innovation, and building ERP ecosystems that are smarter, faster, and future-ready. Mr. Anshuman, I always feel every leader's story has that one global thread. Those few moments that shaped everything that came after. You have spent more than 20 years building and leading ERP transformations across some of the most complex industries. But if you could take us back to the early beginnings, how did this journey start for you?
So this journey actually started when I was working as a finance consultant. And in the early days, I was helping the finance team close to their books every month. And honestly, month end was always stressful. And there was a spreadsheet everywhere, different versions, different numbers. No one was wrong, but no one fully right either. So I remember one late evening very clearly while reconciling the data expense from same cost is having in 3 different files, and the 3 different numbers were there. So that moment stayed with me. I realized the finance cannot run on assumptions. It requires accuracy, clarity, and source of truth. So that's when I first became curious about the ERP. And as my role grew, I started working closely with one of the manufacturing and operational client, and that's when I saw a completely different side of the problem. On the shop floor, everything was manual, and paper, register, handwritten, and inventory that never matched finance. So finance blamed manufacturing blamed planning, and leadership was stuck in the middle. So during one stop, we found that the same item in the 3 different bins. So each bin had a different quantity recorded. So that's when it clicked for me that finance and operation cannot work in silos, and they need one strong ERP backbone connecting them. So there was one late evening reconciliation meeting was happening. I'll never forget that kind of moment. So nothing was matching and deadlines were slipping. So everyone was frustrated. A senior leader looked at me and said, if you believe the process you are recommending will fix this, so take the call. I'll support you. So that changed how I saw transformation. So ERP is not about the technology, it is about the ownership, trust, and the leadership. So over the year across insurance, fintech, manufacturing, and GCC group, that early learning stayed with me. Finance need accuracy and governance, and operation need visibility and control. So ERP sits right in the middle, connecting everything. So one of my most rewarded experience was leading a multi-country rollout. India, UAE, and Africa, different countries, different regulation, one unified system. So when team finally trusted the numbers and reconciliation stopped being firefighting, that's when I knew the transformation had worked. So even today, as I lead Egisedge Technology, that finance consultant mindset stays with me. Simply, complexity, and respect the business, and build ERP system people can truly rely on.
Mr. Anshuman, thank you for the excellent start to this interview and sharing the insights. Continuing our conversation, you have led some of the most demanding Oracle EBS R12 to Fusion Cloud transformations, especially for global clients. And these weren't just module upgrades. They were full-scale transformations across O2C, R2R, P2P, and HCM, involving multi-entity consolidation, localization, compliance, and integrations. Was it data validation stabilizing, a breakthrough in OIC integration, alignment with C-level stakeholders, or something more unexpected?
See, when people hear about Oracle EBS to Fusion transformation, they often think the biggest challenge is technology, a data migration, OIC integration, or configuration. But the real turning point in the program, which I was leading for multiple clients, was something far more human. Well, let me explain you with one example. In the early phase of one of the client was transforming and nothing was stable. Mock runs were failing and OIC integrations were stuck, and every team had their own versions of data. So finance had one number, operation had another number, and IT had third. So even small validation turned into the long meetings, and it felt like every team had pulling in the different directions. So I initially expected the breakthrough to come from better tools and the better script, but the real turning point came through alignment, not technology. So one day we brought the finance, operation, HR, and tech team into one room. Instead of debating integration, we simplify the one common data model and one version of the source of truth of process, O2C, R2R, P2P, and HCM. That single decision changed everything. So once everyone aligned on the same structure and the OIC flow began working smoothly, R2R validation became predictable. So entries started agreeing on the same numbers. So, and the project shifted from solving mode to the execution mode. So there was another point, a mock migration that failed completely in front of the auditor. It was a stressful moment, but it forget us to the forgotten tighten governance, improve reconciliation rules, and rebuild the trust across team. So that real moment when was the first clean end-to-end transaction flowed through Fusion without any manual intervention. The entire room felt that shift, and people smiled. Some clapped and some joked. Tonight we finally sleep, and that's where I realized the truth. Large ERP program don't turn around because of the one technical fix. They turn around when people, data, and leadership start moving in the same direction. Technically, follow alignment, not the other way. around. So yes, integration matter, or data validation matters, and C-level support matters. But the real breakthrough, the real transformation came from the moment when teams trusted each other, agreed, and one process, one model, and one truth, and moved together. So that is what makes a multi-country fusion cloud transformation succeed.
That was powerful, Mr. Anshuman. It's interesting how transformation becomes real only when people move together, not just systems. And the honesty in your story really stands out.
Yeah.
So, moving ahead, Mr. Anshuman, you have delivered migrations with zero data loss, 100% audit reconciliation, and even accelerated timelines using Apex utilities and standardized validation frameworks. Now, tell me, what is the most complex data migration challenge you have ever faced, and how did you crack it? I mean, was it volume, data quality, multi-organizational structures, mapping, or the pressure of regulatory timelines like the Ind-AS, IFRS, or SEBI reporting?
So let me take you inside one project. There was one big project where I was working, because that were the data migration really tested us. And we had almost the 12 years of data which need financial data which need to be moved from EBS to Fusion. Some of it was in Oracle EBS, some of it in another outside the system, and some are the manuals, Excel sheets, which is handy with the auditors and all. So nothing, it was when we were trying to match with them, it was nothing fully matched. So this was not just a system change, it was Ind-AS and IFRS reporting. The board wanted confidence, auditors wanted clean numbers, and the cutover date couldn't be moved. So I remember long night in the project room looking at report that was just would not balance. It is just unreconciled items, I can say. The biggest problem was not the data volume, it was confusing and broken data. So the same invoice spread in more than one ledger. So the same supplier had different names. Old system followed different tax rules. The normal migration script simply could not handle this. So the turning point came when we stopped treating migration as an IT task and start treating as a finance-led exercise. We paused the project, cleaned the data, and agreed on one correct version of master and mapping. And we then used Apex tool and simplify validation rule to check every numbers from source to target. It was not easy, but one mock migration failed more than once, and we had to redesign key mapping under pressure, but we stayed disciplined. So at final cutover, we achieved zero data loss and full audit reconciliation. More importantly, the CFO and auditor trust the numbers. That project taught me one thing clearly, that data migration succeed not because of tools, but because of the strong control, clear ownership, and clear, calm leadership under pressure.
Rightly said, Mr. Anshuman. And okay, so moving forward, you are well known for your governance frameworks, KPI dashboards, SLA tracking, program charters, risk heat maps, and steering committee structures that keep multi-country ERP programs aligned. And you have done this on programs exceeding Indian rupees 50 crores across India, UAE, Singapore, and Africa. In your experience, what is the one governance mechanism that consistently rescues complex ERP programs from slipping? And why does it work every time? Is it KPIs, weekly steering, vendor alignment, risk discipline, escalation clarity? What is it?
So when you run the large program, especially ERP across country like UAE and Singapore, India, Africa, you realize that the program don't fail because of technology. They fail because of delayed decision and unclear ownership. So if I have to choose one governance mechanism that consistently saves a program, it's this a strict weekly steering committee that makes fast, clear, and binary decisions. Let me explain why. In multi-country program over the 50 crores, you have a different vendors, different priorities, and different compliance rules and different mindset. Everyone is working hard, but not always in the same direction. So that's when delay starts. Risk accumulated also, and the project begins to slip. So I remember the large program where things were slightly going off track. Finance rules were different in each country, integration were waiting for decision, and legal deadlines were around the corner. So one Friday evening, one dashboard turns red. So during that time, that moment showed me how important the governance truly is. So we have activated the real steering committee and not a symbolic meeting, but a thought decision making body. Everything changed. It works because it forces five things: alignment, speed, ownership, escalation, clarity, and binary decision making. So either it is yes or no. So I still remember one tense meeting where we had to choose the between two cutover path. The team had debated it for days. Or in the steering committee, we took the decision in the minutes, and that decision saved the entire timeline. So why does it work every time? This clarity, because ERP program depends on clarity, rhythm, and accountability. So a strong steering committee gives us all three KPIs are useful. Risk heat maps are important, and vendor review matters. So, but the one mechanism that consistently bring program back on track in India or in Africa, in fintech or manufacturing, is a discipline steering committee that needs every week and takes real decision. So it keeps the program predictable, transparent, and aligned. Exactly what board CEO expects.
Absolutely, Mr. Yadav. And that moment you described where a single decision in the steering room changed the whole tempo, that brought the governance point to life.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Anshuman, time for our supercharged rapid fire round. Quick questions, rapid answers, no overthinking, just the first instinctive answers that strikes to your mind. So, shall we move ahead with it?
Yeah.
Okay. First question, one food you can eat any day, anytime.
Rajma chawal.
Okay. Classic. The last show you binge watched.
Family Man.
Nice. My favorite too. Your all-time favorite movie.
Avengers.
Okay. If you could instantly learn one new skill, what would it be?
Guitar.
Uh-huh. Okay, nice. A travel destination still on your wish list.
Europe.
Amazing place. Beautiful. One thing people would be surprised to know about you.
I enjoy quiet morning more than a social evening.
Okay, right. A song that always puts you in a good mood.
There was some Hindi movie called Badan Ke Sitare, something like that. It's
Right. The retro classics.
uh,
Yeah, absolutely fun. Okay, next question. One habit you are proud of.
daily 5 kilometer walk.
Great. One habit you wish you could break.
Overthinking decision that I already know the answer to.
Okay, working on it. Right. The best advice you have ever received?
Don't confuse when you are doing any work in between.
Okay. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Grounded.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Mr. Anshuman. That was fast, fun, and absolutely fantastic. Great. All right. So moving ahead with the next segment of questions and talking about the bigger picture. Uh, Mr. Anshuman, in the world of large-scale enterprise programs, especially ERP transformations, we have all seen what can happen when governance slips, delayed go lives, compromised financials, audit failures, even reputational risks. And you have worked across India, UAE, Africa, and Singapore, and you have dealt with regulatory frameworks like Ind-AS, IFRS, SEBI, multi-country audits, and multi-entity consolidations. So you have seen governance from every angle. When you look at some of the governance or compliance failures we have witnessed globally, whether it's ERP projects that collapsed under mismanagement or organizations that suffered because controls weren't strong enough, what have these moments taught you personally about ethics, transparency, and doing the right thing even when nobody's watching?
So when you work across India, UAE, South Africa, and Singapore, you see very clearly what happens when governance slips, delays go live, wrong financial numbers, failed audit, or even reputational damage also. But the biggest lesson in my career didn't come from success. They come from near failure only. So I remember one moment very clearly. So we were doing a multi-country consolidation under Ind-AS and IFRS, and during a key audit review, the numbers simply didn't reconcile. So they were complete silence in the room, and finance was tense, legal was asking for answers, and the project team suddenly realized this was not just a data issue, this was a trust issue. So that was a wake up moment for me. I learned that system can be fixed, but once trust is broken, it takes years to repair. So most governance failure don't start big, they start small, ignoring mismatch, skipping validations, unclear ownership, and second things, it is okay, nobody will notice. So like that, uh, governance failures. So, but across multiple countries, under regulation like SEBI, INDAS, and IFRS, small shortcuts becomes big problems very fast. So I had a moment where timelines were tight and the easy option was to move ahead without full reconciliation. Uh, so saying stop was not a comfortable, but it was the right decision. And that taught me something important. Ethics is not about the big statement. Ethics is about the small decisions when nobody is watching. Over the year, I've built a governance practices that force transparency, independent sample checks, or full audit trials, early escalation rules, that dashboard visibility to leadership, and a culture where bad news is shared openly, not hidden. The result was simply cleaner audit, faster reconciliation, more confidence from CFO board. So when I look at a global governance failure, ERP program collapsing, companies facing compliance issue, the lesson is always the same. Good governance is not a control mechanism. It is a leadership behavior. So it is about doing the right thing even in the comfortable situation, even under the pressure. So even when nobody is watching. So because the decision we make in the moment don't just affect the project, they shape the credibility in the entire organization.
Absolutely, Mr. Anshuman. And that wake up moment you described, the silence when the report failed, painted the stakes vividly. Really powerful, really. Okay, so Mr. Anshuman, you have recently been associated with Directors Institute. So let me ask you this: what drew you to join Directors Institute in the first place? And after being part of it, how has that experience changed the way you look at leadership, governance, and decision making at the board level?
See, I joined the Director Institute after the moment of realization that we had delivered a big technology program successfully, but a board member asked one simple question: does this actually makes the company easier to govern? So that question stays with me. I realize delivery is not the same as good governance. I wanted to understand how board thinks about risk, accountability, and the long term impact. So that's what drew me to join the Director Institute. And begin part of it changed my perspective. I now see leadership as creating clarity, not control. Your governance is not just compliance, it is about trust, transparency, and auditability. So, at the board level, decisions are not about speed alone. So, they are about standing up the scrutiny. So, and protecting the institute over time. So, that shift from delivery mindset to stepward mindset has been the biggest change for me. So yes, this is the way, this is the one which I would like to learn more in the Director Institute and join the Director Institute to learn more on the board perspective also.
Great to hear that, Mr. Anshuman. And that spark you described, the boardroom movement that shifted perspective, really sets the tone for why institutional thinking matters. And thank you for the candid piece about discomfort and relearning. And let me tell you this, Mr. Anshuman, this has been such an enriching and inspiring conversation. And I think our listeners today walked away with something much deeper, that in a world obsessed with speed, true leadership is about doing things right, not just fast, and that ethics isn't a policy, it's a daily practice. On behalf of everyone at FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors, thank you, Mr. Anshuman, for sharing not just your expertise, but your perspective, your honesty, and the wisdom earned across 2 decades of transformation leadership. Truly. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to our audience, I hope today's episode gave you not just insights into ERP, AI, and digital transformation, but also a renewed sense of how important governance, ethics, and clarity are in shaping sustainable success. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, signing off for now. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and as I always say, lead with integrity. Thank you so much. Have a nice time.